Alrighty, gentlemen, welcome to today's stream where we are playing in Minecraft. Welcome in, Denal. Welcome in, Engineer. Thank you for joining me tonight. I decided to just stream just for the vibes. And to start off the stream, I want to put some moss over yonder. I gotta fix something real quick on this end. Hold up, 2 seconds. Did not mean to lower that. Boom, boom, ba-doom. All right. The problem is, this is all the moss that I have. That's not good because I need to go through and put this moss in certain areas, which are going to be light patches. If only I had a moss farm that I could get a bunch of moss from, we wouldn't have to worry about it, right? Oops, that's the hole. We're just gonna go down this secret little hole here. Now, one thing I do have to keep in mind is I need to make sure that this hole is still accessible when I build all of the greenery up above. I have an idea of how to do that, which is to put some leaves around and fallen debris kind of in and around the hole, and then leave these 4 blocks available and open. Yeah, moss farm. Okay, so we're gonna go up to 1 floor. Is that up? No, up is left. Boom. All right. So we can go up here. We can go ahead and basically, I'm just going to go to one of these moss farms. Right? Like this guy over here. Right? And we're just going to probably just, here's what I can do. I don't need a lot of moss. So we can do that. Where did that last one go? That one went there. Sorry, that one needs to stay. Because all of this also goes into here. So just these 3 right here. Just those 3. And then what we can do is we can just take that one off. Right? Maybe not. Oh, wait, no. It's this one. Yes. Okay. So we can now produce moss nice and easily. And get ourselves a couple extra stacks of moss. Very nicely. Very nice. Yeah. And then we can just oh, did not mean to do that. Let me throw those in there. We can grab moss out of those as well. Boom. Leave 1 in there. And now we could just get ourselves a bunch of moss. The irony is I built this giant 32 moss farms to produce all of the bone blocks. But not a single one of these just produces moss on its own. Otherwise, I have to do something like this. They're all made to produce me bone meal and not produce moss. So I might have to build a 33rd moss farm sometime. So that way I actually can have just moss on my own. Which I think is quite funny. Nope. Crap, I don't know where that went. Okay, I really should not be having anything in my inventory. Not good. Okay. Get maybe 8 stacks, I feel like could just be. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is just siphoning off. Yeah, but probably add an actual system that can do this, so I don't have to do this whole nonsense. That would probably be most beneficial. But hey, this is fine. Look at that. And now I have just the right amount of moss. We can put these back. And we can go up here. And we can do that. And all is well with the world. This should stop promptly. Beautiful. Alright. Did not break anything. This elevator is still up. I guess I should probably call it down. There you go. That's what I mean. Add some hoppers and you'll save a few chests and stuff before. Yeah, that's not a terrible idea. The issue is I don't want to have to turn on the entire moss farm because this thing is very laggy, as you know. So I plan over here to build another small guy, and in there I'm gonna probably put a couple farms that I need. Like probably a wool farm would be handy to have, and then put like another moss farm and maybe a larger pumpkin and melon farm for villager trading. Those are kind of the ideas that I got for that. But I haven't built that building yet. That is a future me problem. Oh, I love this thing. There's a nice little elevator. Feels so scientific. I don't like the epileptic warning that comes with this elevator though, because of all the lights that flash if I don't have my gamma on. All right, but now we got plenty of moss, so we're gonna go around. We're gonna moss up the ground, kind of figure out exactly what we want to do. The way I'm gonna do this is we're basically gonna say, okay, here's a nice like open area. So it would kind of make sense if this open area was, I don't know, maybe a little bit brighter. A little bit greener, if you will. You do a little bit of that action, right? And like, yeah, sure, there's some areas, but like this is like a little bit more darker, but like a little bright patch. And here's another one, like right in the center of this. We can go ahead and put, you know, nice bright patch of moss. Or like kind of like a highlight. This does mean we can't just walk around bone mealing. Bone mealing the grass because we now have to worry about the moss. Look at that, it's a little cross. So that is a kind of a concern. We're not going to worry about that one, that patch right there. Like right here is like, this is a nice open patch of grass right here. Kind of go in, do all that. Very, very nice. Very nice. Maybe just like a little guy. Little bit of light comes through here. I like this, yeah. Nice little grass patches. This is kind of all dark. This is kind of all dark. This doesn't really have any light patches, though. You know, maybe we can do, like, kind of almost like strands. You know, do something kind of funky. Like that. That doesn't belong. Probably more on this side than anything else. Do something a little like this, so it's like follows where the light is. I don't know. Could be kind of cool. I think this will look good. This will add some nice nice like highlights, I think, to the edges, or not to the edge, like, you know what I mean. Yeah? We're not gonna go that far out because we don't know if we're gonna put more trees over here, so we're not gonna worry about that. But when it comes to like these areas, this is pretty much all we got for this area, which is very nice. And then if we really wanted to, we could put more dirt in now that we don't have as much of this stuff. And then I'm thinking, obviously, it only makes sense to have, like, this area be very full of moss here. Because it's in of itself very bright. maybe we add, like, we have a little bit of grass bleeding in to kind of add, I don't know, something in there. How do you feel about the azalea bush top as ground texture? That's not a bad idea. I think I will incorporate that. The one annoying thing about it is you do need, like, I think 3 blocks in order to put it on this top one or something like that. So it has weird mechanics when it comes to how you can place it, which could get a little annoying, especially considering, most of this ground is floating. But I do like the idea. That's a really good idea. So I think probably what I'll do is have, like, specified areas. Actually, I really should put it there. That doesn't make any sense. Having areas that are, like, specifically have it in there. I think you just needed 1 under it. Maybe it is 1, but I thought I've had issues before where I've tried that, and it, like, would be grudgingly not placed, and it was very annoying. Maybe something's, I don't know, maybe I was doing it wrong back then, but I remember having trouble back when I first tried it, because it is a really good idea to do that, and I didn't think about it. However, as mentioned, I want to kind of save it for specific areas. Like, we'll do all the grassing, and then when there's areas, like, we'll do all of this upper texture, and then when there's areas that are, like, open, where we would maybe put in some of those, we can also put in the azalea to add in that extra. Or we can put, like, patches of pink flowers and do the flowering azalea and kind of have that as, like, a little... Oh, I already did that. Have that as a little thing. So, like, right here, we can, maybe do something like that. A little guy right there. I think that could be kind of cool. So, yeah. I think that could be kind of cool. It's a good idea, though. It is a very good idea. And then, of course, right by the roadside. I don't really want to, like... I don't want that much. I want it to be more like a highlight, so I don't want to overuse it. It's just meant to be like a little pop of color in the area. Kind of matching with the surroundings. That to me is a little not open enough. Alright. Get out of the way. I need to place blocks there. Thank you. Thank you very much. My shovel is getting lower on durability right now. These bits are a little too dark. This right here is a good little spot. Just a couple of these extra little ground details now. Don't know how much this is gonna stick around. That could be kind of interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Think that's pretty much all of the mossing that I want to do. I don't really think there's that... Like, I don't think I need to do that much. Again, it really is meant to be more like a highlight. Like, this area is very much in the sun. So it makes sense to have it. Wow, this guy is scraggly. That's okay. Alright, so next step is to add bushes, not these bushes, but larger, like, shrubberies in, and start getting that done. Well, now I need the thing that was here. All right, throw that in there. All right, gentlemen, somebody give me a hot take. Let's unpack a hot take, all right? Whatever you consider a hot take. I wanna unpack it. That's not right. That goes here, that goes there. I forgot that I wanted to look up hot takes. Like just online what the biggest hot takes are. I don't have any of them. I'm gonna take a little bit of a pause before I do that to repair my shovel a little bit. Because I don't... If you've got a good one. Hot take. Most fantasy books are poorly written even if they're enjoyable. Ooh. Alright. That is a good one. That is a good one. I think I understand why you're saying it. I think I get it. Because a lot of fantasy books have really cool worlds, but those worlds can get very convoluted very quickly, and it becomes difficult to follow and understand them. Do you have, like, examples? I have emeralds. Wow, I didn't realize I was out of emeralds. Do you have, like, an example of a specific book that you think is like, yeah, this is, like, clear as day, terrible writing, but cool world? I can't really talk about books because I don't read books very often. But what I can talk about are movies and TV shows because I do watch those a lot. And like I'm thinking of one big brand series that I think is actually, in a sense, poorly written, but has a really cool world, and that's Avatar, like the Blue People Avatar. Because Blue People Avatar, all three movies follow the exact same plot line, but the world itself keeps growing larger. And fantasy movies, now I looking at movies and just stories in general, there's always one element, a part that's in a story, that if you were to take said element out of the story, that story would no longer work. World building is one of those things. If you take the world building out of Avatar, it's no longer Avatar anymore because the story itself is the basic good versus evil kind of storyline. You know, it's oppressed people who are fighting for their land. You can find that story anywhere. That's not a hard story to find. Another good one is like characters is another one that you would see a lot. You're reading He Who Fights with Monsters, and there's just a lot of clear grammar errors. That is funny. Okay, so when you say poorly written, do you mean like literally the writing is poor, as in there's grammatical errors, spelling mistakes, all of those kind of things? Or are you thinking like story-wise, the story itself is poorly written, like the plot line doesn't make sense really, there's plot holes very frequently, because that's two different kinds, and that would change the hot take, because I originally took it to be that the actual like plot lines and storylines are poorly written, which I would agree with. I think a lot of them can get very convoluted, because you have these really cool plot lines that don't make a lot of sense, or are very simplistic, which honestly, I think for fantasy, simple is probably the way to go. Rather than creating like complex storylines, I think going for a simpler storyline is probably the smarter play when it comes to writing a fantasy story, simply because it'll be easier to follow, and therefore your audience can dive into your world a little bit better because they don't have to worry about all of the extra stuff. But if it's like grammar issues, that's kind of a whole nother thing that I never would have realized. Beacons down. Oh, I also need food. So while I'm here, let's go ahead and buy some food. Never done this before, but we're actually going to only buy the amount to max ourselves out instead of having the extra. And add the extra too. Perfect. I didn't even account for that, but it all worked out. Height limited. I'm only at 89. What are you talking about? Denali, I think your server's broken. Okay. Shovel is repaired. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Food and other things have been restocked. This is very good. Very, very good. Now we can get into the shrubberies. I think for sake of simplicity, I'm going to grab one log type, which I think I'm going to do. Annoyingly, I want to use spruce. And the reason I say annoyingly is because out of all of the wood types, spruce, I mean, I guess acacia is annoying to get as well. But the spruce logs are also annoying to get. Where are... I lied, gentlemen. We're going for acacia because I don't know where my spruce is. Okay, I am lagging. Alright, my internet is seemingly fine, but I am lagging. We are lagging a whole bunch. Do I want to have... oak leaves? Probably. Probably have maybe highlights every once in a while. It's probably good. Oh, wow, I can actually fit it on. Alright. So, the way this is going to work is we're going to go around and we're going to go ahead and place... going to place bushes. Now, not every bush. I think for the sake of simplicity... So we're going to kind of do this. And then maybe do this. Because the sun will be hitting this side. And that just kind of helps us block off this side. And then there's going to be other areas where it's more like the dirt and stuff, leaves just kind of fell on here. I think could be kind of cool. Maybe do a little bit of highlight there. Again, because the sun is kind of hitting it. And we're just using these as clear put one of these here. All right, why am I lagging so much? Where did this lag come from? Just kind of do like a little pile of leaves. Maybe we do that. Yeah, I definitely think, I just genuinely think stories these days are just written incredibly poorly when they don't need to be written poorly, but they just are, because people don't want to put that much time and effort into storytelling when just reusing a brand identity works better than creating a new story. Yeah, that's the problem. The irony... I need to figure out... I don't remember. Okay. So we want to... Almost making it like fallen leaves. Alright, well, looks like... How's the stream looking right now? Because it's feeling like it's not doing so hot right now. It doesn't feel like it's doing so great. Do some little leafage going. Maybe have some leaves that have fallen on this rock right here. Yeah? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then maybe on this guy, there's like a little shrubbery that's kind of growing. 2 little highlights on there. Work emergency meeting time. Oh boy. I forget Denali has like a non-regular job. So I forget he'd also works like later at night. This is actually kind of a bright patch, like right on the edge here. So we're gonna put that there, but not any further than that. We'll go right there. We'll also might as well have a shrub right here. We'll have actually a highlight there, and we'll have the rest of it kind of going out like that. You know, maybe just some fallen leaves over there. You know, maybe a big pile of leaves. Like actually, like just like I know this one looks really messy, but this is just like a pile of leaves that just like fell from this congealed area. Maybe we have a little bit of a bush that's kind of growing out right here. You know, kind of exciting. Maybe we have a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that action. Yeah. Interesting. I'm making some interesting choices here. I don't know. That's just getting exciting. And we'll do a little bit of leaves action, but then we'll put like a bush right next to it. Kind of make it interesting. A little bushy bush right there. And put a little bit of leaves actions that have fallen. You know, maybe right here there's like a nastier pile of leaves. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. We're getting exciting with this, you know. Just getting some leaves. I can't wait until this is like done and I have a nice like beautiful forest. Just kind of in the area. Gonna look really nice. And we have like a literal bright bush right there. This is like direct sunlight. Then we put like a couple fallen leaves right there. A couple fallen leaves right there. I don't actually know how much of this how much of this needs to be here. Like, I mean, you think about forests, like they're usually very, very heavily. There's a lot of leaves. A lot of leaves on the ground. So like it kind of makes sense. You know, a little bit of a bush going out right here. Did I just from posting links? It might have been accidental there. I just got a stream report. Am I still live right now? It's showing that I am. All right. As someone who reads a lot, I have to say it can vary widely between stories. I get most of what I read from royalroad.com. Oh, there's the link. While I have dropped stories in the past for both reasons, I have found plenty that have neither issues. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are amazingly written storylines. I'd actually argue that Lord of the Rings is probably one of those. Now, I don't know about like the grammatical writing, but I think Lord of the Rings is just one of those that gets very, very convoluted very easily. Especially like the Silmarillion is certainly not easy to read. Yeah, the Silmarillion is certainly not the easiest literature. Let's not have that right on the road. I don't like that. Did not like that. No. But I don't mind having it like right next to the road. That's kind of exciting. Because like the Silmarillion is not easy. I have tried reading it. I couldn't get through it. Not really much of a surprise. I have no idea if it deleted your message because I use a different software to do chat now, so I can combine both YouTube and Twitch chat. But yeah. It will flag links for sure. Yeah. I stopped halfway through the second book of the main trilogy because I couldn't keep track of who I was anymore. Yeah, and like that's fair, and I think Lord of the Rings is a great example of that convoluted nature of stories that can sometimes happen. Because it's just like, yeah, the story at a certain point gets really confusing, and of course, fantasy worlds tend to build and build and build on each other. That it does, yeah, you lose track of who you even are in the story itself, and that's not really a good place to be in. Now, of course, I think that's where like a movie can really benefit from being a movie, is simply because it's a lot easier to figure out who you're with because you can like literally see, and when you swap characters and perspectives, it immediately like changes and you have a visual indicator of that change. But like sometimes like at reading a book, you might forget, oh wait, I forgot I'm this guy, and that explains why I'm in this region of the world. You know, like I can totally see that being an issue. And kind of coming up. Emergency Resolved, very good, very good. But yeah, the book I mentioned is Lit RPG, which seem to be released episodically more often than not, and they don't get full editing cycle. Interesting, interesting. Is that like a kind of like a webtoon sort of like thing, like that kind of vibe, but instead of like a graphic novel style or like a manga style, it's actual words. Because I've never heard of a lit RPG. Sounds interesting, though. I've tried getting into webtoons before. I didn't end up finding one that I liked. Most of them were just not very entertaining to read at all. Which was very unfortunate, because I had high hopes for it, you know? Alright, do we think this is enough bush action, or do we think it's not bushy enough? Like, that's the thing I can't tell. Am I going a little overboard with the bushes, or do we not have enough bushes? It's a normal fantasy, but whoa, gotta go way back. Speaking of the shift, the same book does perspective shifts within scenes, which is really disconcerting. It's a normal fantasy, but characters have explicit RPG mechanics. Interesting. That actually sounds really cool. Almost like a D&D story brought to life. Can confirm that He Who Fights with Monsters is a web novel. New posts hit Patreon first, then Royal Road until a book's worth of chapters are complete, then it gets published. Nice. So the character has an inventory, still books, ranks, and whatnot. I like that. That honestly reminds me of some animes I've seen. And I honestly really like that trope in anime, which is a video, like a real life video game. And I always like Solo Leveling is the most like modern example of that, I think. But my favorite anime is called Reincarnation. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. And it follows very similar video game-esque mechanics for the world building, which is really cool because it has those unique scenarios that you would find in a video game, but now you're finding it in this world, and I think it's really cool. So I always like to do that. I started the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, but it's very vulgar. Interesting world, though. Interesting. Did you ever watch Hack? Hack sounds very familiar. I feel like I've heard of it before, but probably I have not seen it. Or at least I can't remember if I have. think this is enough bushes. Gotta get like an overhead. That feels very bushy. I feel like that's a good amount of bush. I'm happy with that amount of bush. Not hack. Dot hack. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so the dot was intentional. Dot hack. Main character is strongly implied to be a human stuck inside an MMORPG. Interesting. It is interesting. I have not heard of it. Or I have not, yeah, I don't think I have heard of it then. But it sounds really cool. Okay. Let's see here. One thought. Also, just realized I hadn't been doing a flashback this entire time. I should have just started the flashback when I remembered, but I didn't want to have like minutes worth of nothing. Here's another hot take. Bryan Sanderson Mistwalker series has a terrible ending. I don't know the series at all. I can give you one of my hot takes, because I've talked about this before, because I think it is a really funny hot take. I think the Game of Thrones ending was good. Just saying. I think it was a good ending, and I think the reason... I know who Brandon Sanderson is. That's not the thing I'm confused about. As I said, I'm not a reader, so I've never read Mistwalker before. But also, Brandon Sanderson has a lot of series, and so I've never read one of them, and I probably won't, because again, I'm not a reader. But yeah, Game of Thrones has a good ending. I liked it, and I think the reason people don't like the Game of Thrones ending is because I think people don't like the Game of Thrones ending because it's actually logical rather than like a happy ending for the characters like you usually would want and most stories would end. Or like, oh yay, everything's happy for the characters, but instead it's like this is logically what would happen given the world that they're in. And so that's why I like it. But if you haven't seen it, then you wouldn't understand the points I'm going to make. I also wouldn't want to spoil it for you. Would recommend watching it. I know everyone's always concerned about all the sex that's in Game of Thrones. You lose maybe 10 minutes per episode. Some episodes don't even feature nudity. People make it seem like Game of Thrones is a porno, and it really isn't. Like, there's a little bit of, like, there's some of it in there, but you can just skip it, and you don't need the information that you get from it. I don't even think there's only been, I think, one conversation that I felt like I missed something important. What the? But I don't really care. I skipped all those scenes. And again, you lose about 10 minutes per episode, and each episode is an hour long. So you're still getting 50 minutes worth of stuff. Also, Denalid, don't know if this is a glitch or not, but this guy doesn't have a usual menu. And I don't know where his menu went. And if you're like, well, he doesn't need a regular menu if this is intentional. This guy is one of the only renewable sources of small drip water. Wow, shooting your own, I see. Alright, well, that's not good. Alright, well, that's not good. Where did that head go? Gentlemen, I don't know. I don't know where the head went. It's working fine, so. I've heard that the Game of Thrones TV ending was really compressed and rushed compared to the book. That's secondhand, though. My favorite anime is probably Apricot of Blue Steel. Spelled Apricot. Apricot, correctly on the first try. Other than the two characters who are AI being driven by their lust for specific characters. AI should not be ruled by lust. Why do they even have that function? It is really well done, especially the ending and the way that it handles AI. Interesting. I haven't heard of that one. Oh, that's what I was thinking. When you said blue steel, I thought of blue lock. So that's what I went to first. But obviously that is not. I'm not sure. It's a data pack. Interesting, because I thought because it's the Vanilla Tweaks data pack, right? I thought the Vanilla Tweaks data pack adds it in addition to. So it's weird that it's gotten rid of the other menu. I'll have to add. I'm gonna add that to my list right now before I forget. Because another one that was recommended to me is Love is War, which is a romance anime. Because I watch, according to my friend, I watch a lot of shonen, which are literally all the fantasy action adventure ones. Arpeggio, Arpeggio of Blue Steel. We'll go ahead and add that in there into the list. That should be a fun one. Okay. So the reason I kept coming over here to look at things, and haven't done anything in the hot minute is because I'm trying to think of fallen trees, if I should put fallen trees, but you know what? I don't think I want to. I don't think it's necessary. So, I think the next step is I need to look at a reference photo for what I want to do for the rest of this forest here, okay? So I need to come in here and I need to look at what did I do over here. That's right, okay? This is our reference. This is what we're trying to emulate up there. So probably, obviously we have these jits that we need to go through and put that. We'll probably put those in later to add a little bit of variability. Probably want to go in and put all of these yellow and white patches of wildflowers. I think that could look good and interesting if we go through and do that. And then maybe add in pink ones as well and kind of just do patches of flowers, like intentional patches of flowers. Just as an FYI, I am not going to bone meal. Maybe I'll bone meal a little bit of this, but really, realistically, I'm not going to go through and bone meal this. Mainly because I don't want to accidentally bone meal moss, but also because there's a lot of more thought that goes into it. So I think we're gonna just manually place everything. So the first thing I need are all the flowers. Not in there. Not in there either. They should actually be in that one. I just don't think I have any. Because all of my flowers are in my flower box. I do not have nearly enough flowers at all. Does anybody have a flower farm? We'll go ahead and worry about all the other flowers later. I answered my own question. A Nerb does. We're going to take a visit at his place. I also have a flower farm, so we're just going to get some of this. While that's going on, I'll read this. I recently finished The Will of the Many. The Will of the Many 2. Interesting world, but it's more political spy drama than fantasy. And it's clearly written as a series hook. There's a bunch of unsolved threads. Interesting. If you like spy books, my dad is currently writing a spy book, which is pretty cool. Sorry, the lighting on my... I'm very dark right now, but it's probably because I lost my light from the window. Because obviously I'm streaming at night, so there's a lot of darkness. But that is unfortunate. Yeah, because... No? I can't... I need to fix the lighting. While we wait, I'm going to fix the lighting. Live on stream, gentlemen. Okay, that should be better, I think. Yeah. That to me looks better. Slightly. I just need to, up it up a little bit. Give her a little more juice. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm out of bone meal in there. Let me grab more bone meal. Interesting. Okay. Well, to be honest, I had hoped it would be more fantasy. Lol. Hoping it would be more fantasy rather than spy. That's funny. Doug, I don't remember if I asked you this before. Have you formally studied storytelling and story structure? Yes, I have taken narrative writing and story writing, screenwriting classes. However, I don't know if that's the same thing you're necessarily specifically referencing to. I have taken classes on story, and have studied it. And I also have watched a lot of YouTube videos on very specific. Now, granted, a lot of what I've learned from storytelling is very specific to movies and screenwriting, which is a very different form of writing, compared to books and other stuff like that. And I've also taken a class on adaptation, film adaptation. Possibly. I'm just curious to know what references they use for narrative structure. I do actually have a Save the Cat book, and we do use that narrative and that structure. It's funny because yesterday I tried watching the Backrooms. I only got 30 minutes in before getting bored because the main character didn't have a Save the Cat moment. I do reference that a lot. I like to think that I know story pretty well. I'm not good at it, but I know it really well, and I think that's why I'm not good at it, because I very quickly and easily can point out the mistakes that I have in my story, and it sidetracks me and derails me from just writing. And so I find it very difficult to write a story because I know I'm lacking the Save the Cat beats, and I'm like, I don't have this beat yet, or I don't have that beat yet, and blah, 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 blah. All of these problems. So okay, yes. To answer your question, yes, I have learned it. Now that I'm talking about it, I've definitely learned it, and now that you're referencing Save the Cat, I have dove into that very much. Have I read the Save the Cat book? No, because we were given the excerpts that we needed to read for the classes, and again, I don't read, so I never have taken the time to read. Never really cared to. This is Virga's, like... No, this is the dive farm. This is where I want to be. So yes. I do know a lot about story. I do know a lot about story in a very good way. Okay, what farm does what? What is this farm? Is this this is the blue farm. Don't care about blue farm. Sorry, I had to step away for a moment. Which story we're talking about? I think we're just talking about stories in general. I need dandelions mostly. A ton of dandelions. Wildflowers I'm not gonna take. Sunflowers we're not gonna take because I have tons of those. Wow, there is a lot of this stuff in here. Holy. Interesting. Trying to figure out what is going on over here. We're going to talk about narrative structures. I read the Save the Cat writers writes a novel and a few others. Now I can't help seeing the beat or lack thereof anytime I watch or read something. Exactly. Sometimes learning about story is like the worst way you can actually dive into story, because now that's all you can see are the narrative beats, and as you have just mentioned, or lack thereof of said narrative beats. I know I am clearing a nerve out of this, but at this point, this server is basically just mine and Denala's Let's Play world. So I don't feel bad taking a ton of this stuff. Where are the freaking oxide daisies, man? How much yellow dye does a man need? Blue dye. Does he not have... This is most unfortunate. Does he not have a, what is this? I don't even know. Little bone meal action over here. Might also low. And sometimes lockdown. Okay. I've been on once with Knight before, but I have not seen I've not seen Ain yet. I always want to call him Angelish Bob when I realize his name is an angelic Bob. Okay, does this do the flowers I'm looking for? Alright, well. It's out of bone meal, so that's not great. No, it does not do the flowers that I want. Most unfortunate. I want these ones. Blue flowers are harder to get. Yeah, he spent forever trying to find a location for the blue flowers. The ones I need are the friggin' Oxide Daisies and Azure Bluettes. Oh, my light just died. You know what? That's fine. We'll charge it later. Does he have this farm somewhere else? I thought he made all flower farms. So maybe I'm just going crazy. I don't know. All right, gentlemen. I guess we're just gonna have to fly and find it. At least we got the dandelions. At least we got dandelions. We need to, unfortunately, fly out and just find the other stuff. Most unfortunate. Yeah. Got plenty of yellow. Wanted a little bit of white in there. It really... favorite genre, science fantasy. What do you mean by science fantasy? I mean, I think I understand what you mean, but like, do you have examples of science fantasy? Because that sounds interesting. Like, would superhero fall into a science fantasy? Or is that more just technically science, like sci-fi? But I guess technically superhero is its own genre. But you have, like, genre cliches and then, like, actual genres. I feel like superhero is, like, more of the cliche of genres, when in reality, like, it's action-adventure. You have those genres. I think those have different names, but I can't remember what they are. Alright, well, we're just gonna go around picking up all of these. I'd love a stack. I guess I could make a farm for this. I mean, it isn't a complicated farm to make. We'll add that to the list of farms that I should add to that one building I'm planning on making at some point in the future. That's probably going to be an off-camera project, because I need to make sure I leave myself off-camera projects. Otherwise, I get stuck in situations like these, where I feel the need to stream because I need to do something to cover something, and do that. Most unfortunate. Also, I really should... We're going to pause the recording, okay? Remind me to start that again when I get back to and start placing these flowers, because I really need to have these flashbacks for the video. I can't be forgetting them. Superhero is its own thing over there up until it decides another genre is found foundation of the world. I'm not actually that excited about superhero stories. I prefer the more traditional fantasy. High or low doesn't matter. Interesting. Yeah, it depends on the superhero. To be fair, like I think it's just like superhero movies. Most suck because it's Disney and it's Marvel. I'm not gonna lie, that is the reason why it sucks. Is because Disney owns Marvel and they're just making stuff to make money. And it's no longer Disney is no longer about making entertainment. They're all about they're a business. And so it's all about getting a product out to its people rather than actually making something entertaining, which is why everything just kind of sucks when it comes from Disney. Hot take. The Iron Man movies weren't that good. That is actually a hot take. I would disagree with Iron Man 1. Iron Man 2 was mid. I think every single sequel. Iron Man 3 was pretty good, but not as good as the first one. The first one was really good. Like, genuinely, the first one was really good, and it's what built Marvel. I would agree with you on the... Since you said movies plural, I will agree with the second and third one not being that good. And to be perfectly honest, that pretty much goes the same for every single Marvel trilogy. Because they all, like, the first one, really good. The second one, okay. The third one is either the miss or not. Ragnarok was pretty good, but let's put it this way. Ragnarok was entertaining, but was it a good movie? Story-wise was okay. Added unique ideas. Changed Thor into a much more humorous character. Which obviously worked out for them, unfortunately. I think it would have been cool to have the more serious, stoic Thor than the Thor we have now. I don't know. I just thought that would be more interesting. Holy crap! There's a gravel hills right here. Nobody touched this. I need gravel, and I didn't know there was a gravel hill right there. I'm going to get that gravel later, but now I know that it's here. Tony Stark is basically a Mary Sue or Gary Stu or whatever. His version of character growth is going from arrogant womanizer to self-aware arrogant womanizer. Yes. But I personally think that line of logic to discount a story is not a very good one because all stories look the same. Right? Like, I mean, this is where you go back to, like, Scripture. Scripture says there's nothing new under the sun. We cannot create new ideas. I feel like there's also biblical stories of people going from very arrogant to very, not, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like saying that it's bad because it follows a simple story structure is a bad way to say that it's bad. Because, like, yeah, but I think they still did a great job with it. And again, that's what built up the MCU in the first place. Without that Iron Man movie, there would be no MCU, and it kind of had to be good in order to build up the MCU. Science fantasy is where you have sci-fi and fantasy in the same world, and it comes in a wide variety of integrations. Everywhere from sci-fi is at war with fantasy to space stories where the spaceships are literally sailing ships that use magic to do space stuff. Okay, I see. That's cool. I think I actually have a friend who's writing a book series that is science fantasy, because it's very much like space, but the worlds themselves, like the planets, follow a much more fantasy style than sci-fi. Like, it follows that, but the ships are very much ships. He's better in the Avengers movie, but the actual Iron Man movies just all felt shallow to me. All stories look the same structurally, but how you tell the story still matters. It's not the simplicity of the structure. It's the fact that he's a bad character. See, I disagree with that. That is a hot take right there. This is a good hot take. I disagree that you have no sympathy for Tony Stark. Okay. Because you're right. He does. It is the cliche, arrogant guy gets put into a situation. Why exactly do you have no sympathy? Like, what story beats? Since we're talking more about like literal story, like what about the story itself didn't sell Iron Man to you? Because I really like the Iron Man movies. Like the first one. Again, the second and third follow very similar structures, but like the character growth of Tony Stark was well done because he goes from that, and of course his arrogance is something that he kind of always has. That's just a part of his character. However, you look at Iron Man, every time he makes a mistake, he grows from it, and that's literally how he beats Obadiah, because Obadiah did not see an oversight in the suit design that Tony Stark had personally experienced and fixed. And that's what led him to victory, was the fact that Tony Stark learned from his mistakes. When old Tony Stark never would have allowed that, never would have learned from his own mistakes. He starts as a guy with superhuman intelligence, with money that would make Bruce Wayne take note. He ends movie 1 the same, but now he's a superhero. I disagree with that. I don't think he ends movie 1 the same. His personality is still roughly the same. I can agree on that fact, that his personality stays the same. But his character grows because, as mentioned, he now is willing to learn from his mistakes. And you see, like, you then look at Spider-Man in the interactions that Tony Stark has had with Spider-Man. And a lot of the features that were put into Spider-Man's suit, when Tony Stark gave him the suit, had fixes in it for past mistakes and experiences that Tony Stark first experiences. Now, if Tony Stark was still the arrogant, selfish son of a gun that he used to be, he would not have done that. He also would not have learned from his past mistakes because he's too good for that. He wouldn't have needed to learn from his past mistakes because his first choice is the one that's good, you know? But he does learn from it. And he still puts himself out. And of course, in Endgame, he makes the sacrificing play when he wouldn't. And so I think that shows. And of course, the other thing you got to think about is that with the MCU, all of the MCU characters have much longer. Have much longer story arcs than a single movie would entail. And I think that was the intention going into it. Because they knew they would have the entire MCU. So it took the entire MCU for Tony Stark to make the sacrificing play. But that character development was still happening. Well, as I said, the suit freezing is one where he fixed that, so that way his suit wouldn't freeze anymore. When he crash landed in Iron Man 3 and was out in the cold with nothing, he added a heater to what's his face? He added a parachute for when he fell from the wormhole into Spider-Man's suit. That's his face that I was trying to think of. He adds a parachute into the suit as well, so that way it would deploy. So when Spider-Man falls from space, he's caught by the parachute because Iron Man fell from space when he threw the nuke into the wormhole, which is also another example of him making the sacrificing play in the Avengers, which of course the second two Iron Mans take place after the Avengers. Both of them take place back to back after the first Avengers. And keep in mind, I said Iron Man 1, not the full Avengers as MCU canon. I don't see that as a character development. He's written as a brilliant engineer, and you can't be a brilliant engineer without iterating on your designs. That's true, and it could just be that. But my point that I'm saying is, why would he put that in somebody else's suit? Why not just make them a suit that works and call it a day? Like, why put the effort to do all that. There is a video that I've seen where somebody goes through and lists out like literally every single thing that he did, and like all of the times he learned from his mistakes and an integrated new design to fix that, um, or something like that. Like there is a video like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's all right that you don't like him. Like that's fair. He's a hard character to like. Personally, I'm not usually a fan of arrogant characters. There are only a very few amount of arrogant characters that are actually acceptable to me. Um, because yeah, because like Iron Man is one of those that I think like fits the exception, because you see the issue I always have with arrogance is a lot of times people use arrogance in movies, and in characters to show that these characters are arrogant and they can't back up their word. However, here's where things get really niche and kind of funny with characters, is when you have a character that's super arrogant but can back up their word. At a certain point, that arrogance is no longer arrogance, but just actual confidence. They are so confident in themselves and their ability that it comes out as arrogant, like, oh yeah, I can do all of these things. But what happens when they actually do all of those things? Are they arrogant anymore, or are they just very capable and very confident in their skills? A great example of this is, granted, I don't think you would understand this reference. Engineer might. Is Bakugo from My Hero Academia, which is an anime. Bakugo very much is a very arrogant character when we first meet him. However, all of the things he's arrogant about, he's made to do on his promise. Like, he says he'll do these things and be this good, and then he proceeds to do those things and be that good, which means, well, he's not really, because arrogant is being like, oh, I can do all these things without actually doing those things. That's kind of arrogance to me. Whereas confidence is knowing that you're able to do these things, and of course, doing those things. And I think it's just kind of funny. Like, the more you learn and meet Bakugo, the more you realize that he's not actually arrogant, he's just extremely confident. I think Iron Man falls into the same vein of seeming to be very cocky, but the more you know him, the more you see him, the more you realize he's just very confident in what he can do, because he can do quite a lot. If your argument is that character growth over 6 or 7 movies, I can agree. I just don't think it happens in the actual Iron Man movies, and that's a fair statement. I still disagree on the first one, because at the end of the first one, if he didn't grow as a character, then he would not have shut down his billion-dollar company of selling weapons. He wouldn't have shut it down. He wouldn't have learned that his weapons are dangerous and are hurting innocent lives. He wouldn't have cared. If he stayed the same Tony Stark that we meet at the beginning, then he never would have changed. If there was truly no character growth, he would have just kept on selling weapons and stayed as the Iron Man. But he learned and grew, and learning that, oh, me selling weapons is not a good thing. Like, it is actively hurting people. I'm going to stop making and selling weapons, period. I don't think it's large. I agree. I don't think the character growth is large by any means. But I do think there is a little bit of character growth in there, because if you truly say there is no character growth, then that means there has to be an action that he keeps doing. Like, him just being arrogant by the end of the movie, like being arrogant at the beginning of the movie, being arrogant at the end of the movie, that to me is just, that's his personality. And like, truthfully, arrogance in some scenarios isn't bad, because as I just mentioned, sometimes arrogance is just like being very confident in your ability, right? And it's just basically it's a poor way to phrase confidence, is what arrogance is. I don't watch movies or TV much. Like, I watched Blue Steel back in like 2018 or so. That's probably the last time I watched a full series. Interesting. So you do think at the beginning of Iron Man 1, he wouldn't have cared about how his weapons are being used? Yes. I think at the beginning of Iron Man 1, he was a selfish billionaire who was arrogant about his creations and thought he showcases the Jericho and is like, naming it Jericho for a very specific reason because it's meant to destroy and tear down walls. And of course, if we look at the biblical story of Jericho, it also killed a bunch of people. So like that was very much the intent behind the Jericho missile. If he stayed the same character, then when he got back from, I believe it was Afghanistan, when he got back from Afghanistan, he never would have shut down his enterprise. Because at that time, when he stopped making weapons, that was literally his income. Now, he is a smart businessman, so he had income in other areas, though I don't know if it was ever explored what those were. But from our perspective, he shuts down his company, basically. He says, I'm going to pull the plug on my entire company off of one time that I saw my weapons being used in the wrong hands. And that one time was enough for me to say that is not good. That's character growth to me. I agree. I would say it's not very large character growth. It's a very small thing, but I would say it's character growth nonetheless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have cared that his weapons were killing people, learned how to build an arc reactor, learned that he could create a suit of armor, and then bingo bango. But don't worry about it. Now I can literally take over the world because I have unlimited weapons, and now I can fit these weapons within smaller and smaller things. Like, if he didn't grow as a character, I think Tony Stark would have been a villain. Because he would have had all the weapons to back himself up. Been a military power that would have been almost unstoppable. Infinite money, infinite weapons. It's kind of crazy, you think about it. Maybe that's the difference. I never got the impression that he wanted the weapons to be used by terrorists, or that he wouldn't have tolerated it if he had known. I think if he had found out by looking at his ledges, he would have stopped then just as easily. But it also shows that he didn't care enough to peek under the curtain of his own company and who was actually buying his weapons or who was getting a hold of his weapons. Because, like, if Stark is written on all of his weapons and terrorists are using his weapons, it would be kind of safe to assume that it would have appeared on the news that in some bombing, EX, the Sokovia bombing that the Maximoff twins come from, would have shown up on the news with Stark being on the nuke or on the bomb that didn't go off. Meaning that at that point in time when that happened, Stark didn't care enough to change. And presumably there were more instances like this. And it wasn't until he got, like, truly firsthand, like, watching something on the news, yeah, sure, one thing, and maybe, you chalked it up to, okay, yeah, obviously sometimes the weapons are going to get in the wrong hands. That's just what's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it. That's just what's going to happen. Rather than pulling the plug sooner. You should have pulled it way sooner. You're a weapons manufacturer. Of course they're going to get in the wrong hands. Whether or not he was selling to them legally or if they were taking it illegally. Alright, that's plenty of Azure Bluettes. I need oxidases now. Meadows don't have oxidases. Alright, I'm going to grab something to drink because I am heckin' thirsty. So I will be right back. Alright, we'll just remind me to start a new flashback when I get back. We can do ER tree undergrowth. It is now 8:07. Alright, I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Ooh, that's good. Remind me to start the flashback again when I get back to placing blocks. All right. That's why I read. That's what I read as arrogance. We're not gonna worry about those bluettes. What he's doing. Oh, he just assumes that he's doing the right thing. He redirects when he finds clear evidence of harm, but then he just assumes that becoming Iron Man is the right permanent move. Yeah, and I think even in that, of course, becoming Iron Man was not the right permanent move. You know, there were other actions that could have been taken. And even still, you're right, because he obviously then becomes the Iron Man and proceeds to go and tries to destroy all of the weapons that are out and about that where they shouldn't be, you know, and proceeds to do that, thinking he's in the right for doing so. When I would also agree, I don't think that would have been the right cause of action. But that to me is a lapse in judgment because at this point, if you think about it, like to a very literal way, Tony Stark has never done something right in his life, so he has no idea what he's doing when it comes to doing the right thing. So to him, this is the right thing. But as he progresses, he learns more and more about what it is to be the right thing and to be the to be a person that does the right thing. He slowly learns what that is. Now, over the course of the movie, I would agree. I don't think you would see necessarily him discovering that because he goes to a much short term, the right thing to do. But I think that kind of shows the humanity that he just kind of like assumes, okay, let me get rid of it all. Assuming that kind of gets rid of the problem, but as we know that doesn't really work. Um, Given real world evidence, that doesn't really work. Getting rid of weapons doesn't actually stop weapon crime because they're still somehow getting the weapons illegally regardless, right? Uh, but he's doing what he thinks is best to solve the problem. Whether or not that's a good idea, whether or not it's the right idea, he's still at least trying to do something. Whereas again, old Tony Stark probably would have just done nothing. Maybe old Tony Stark would have stopped the company and pulled the plug and realized maybe I shouldn't be selling to terrorists, or maybe I shouldn't have weapons being sold because terrorists can get access to them. You know, I need to stop the food chain by removing the food. But instead he goes a step further, which is I think where the character growth is, in actually doing something about it himself rather than being the billionaire that he is and EX paying the military to go out and retrieve his weapons, risking their lives. Instead, he's risking his own life to do so. Yes, he's in a suit of armor, but I mean, it's still relatively prototype phase. Like, I feel like there's still character development in it. In that. Alright, unfortunately, oxide daisies are far more annoying to get large quantities of. So we may just have to use them very, very sparingly. That slow growth works over the whole MCU collection, less so in the first movie. And I think I can see your point in that. I think I would agree that it is very slow in the first movie and certainly the overall. Uh, but yeah, I think I agree with that point then. Because yeah, it definitely in the first movie is a very almost minuscule character growth compared to the MCU as a whole. Iron Man growth, like he certainly has grown far more to even just the first Avengers, which a lot of that character growth, by technicality, we don't even see on screen because Iron Man 1 happens, and then it's all the other ones, and then it's the full thing, right? Then it's the Avengers. This was a good hot take. Good discussion. Good discussion. Hello, horsies. Goodbye, horsies. I'm not Joel, so I'm not going to kill you. Don't you worry. Because I only have... This is literally the most amount of oxidases that I have. A farm, most certainly, would be very useful. So I definitely think that farms for these sorts of things should definitely be created. As well as a grass farm, like for this stuff, would be useful to have. Which really would just be bone mealing a bunch of area and then shaving it. But obviously you'd want that area to not spawn flowers, so you don't have to worry about the flowers. This is where Thor really worked better for me because he's a very similar arc. He starts as a guy in charge, is forced into a situation where he's nearly helpless and ultimately becomes a hero. But the Thor movie, from pure arrogance to compassion and a recognizable form of wisdom in one movie. Interesting. Yeah, because I definitely say that Thor and I didn't even think about Thor being like obviously he was arrogant. That causes him to be stripped. I think it's because the Thor movies has a much easier and more literal strip of power compared to Iron Man, where like literally he is stripped down to being a regular Joe Schmo who is no longer worthy of his hammer, and the fact that he literally has to become worthy of the hammer again is really cool. Whereas in Iron Man, like, you do technically get the strip of power, which is him being shoved into Afghanistan, but it's not as much because he still has his intelligence. Whereas maybe what would have worked better for you is if he lost his intelligence and had to, grow from that. Because Thor literally loses his powers and then has to become a good guy from that. And ultimately does the sacrificing play, sacrifices himself so everyone else can get to safety, knowing that it would kill him to try to go up against his guardian. And then that is what makes him worthy again. And he's able to lift the hammer again. And I think it's just Thor helps because it's way more visual. Or like you visually can see him being powerless. You can visually see the hammer return back to his hand. You can visually see all of that. Whereas in Iron Man, I think it's just more subtextual and more hidden, which would make it harder to enjoy, which is understandable. Like I think the writers in that case could have done a better job of having it easier to see, like literally see that development, similar to that of Thor. Granted, Iron Man was kind of the template for superhero movies at that time, because no one else had really done something like that. Exactly, Tony Stark's version of becoming worthy is just doing what he did before, but in harder circumstances. Exactly. Whoa. What's going on? What happened over here? Did I come over here to, like, dig dirt or something at some point? Or did somebody come over here? Keep a lookout for glowing white eyes. There's also a crafting table over there. Who? Who is out here? Well, I had something on a fence. Who lives out here, man? Huh. Maybe this is actually a Nerb's original starter area. Where, like, he actually started. Lurk, wife is home, dinner time. Ooh, fair enough. That feels like a really late dinner. Like, that's like 7:30 for y'all. Y'all are an hour before me. Then again, my sister, whom is married to a Hispanic and grew up Hispanic herself, also eats dinner at the time that it is right now, which would be 8:30. Like, they eat late. I don't think I could do that. I'm still honestly really stuffed from dinner that I'm kind of thinking I shouldn't have grabbed a large Coke and should have gone for the mini instead. Because I didn't realize that I was still very full from dinner. I had a Reuben from Arby's, and that was pretty good. This is the one negative side of having Caster Labs, is the AI viewer things do get deleted. I'm pretty sure they get deleted on Twitch, like, immediately. However, Caster Labs doesn't remove it, and so it still appears and it stays on screen, which is most unfortunate, because it doesn't look good. But there ain't nothing I can do about it. Because that person is already banned. Alright. We're going to just kind of wrap around here, grab some more of these. And then we're going to head back and start placing these in. Alright, let's head back home and start preparing to place in all of these flowers. We will just use these as like a highlight instead of using them regularly. Though if we see more on the way, we will pick them up. We will most certainly pick up more of these, because obviously the more the merrier. Eventually, need to just create a farm, which will make me more of this stuff. So that'd be very good. Very, very good indeed. I'm debating going live tomorrow as well, gentlemen. Though tomorrow I might play Elden Ring instead. Because the reason I did this today was because I wanted to record the progression that I was making. Oh, I'm way off. Alright, I just need to get home. I need to get back. Get back to the base. Because I really want to continue the chains, the flail, sorry, the flail only. Flail only. Elden Ring. Kind of fun. By the way, if you put Streambo in the banned words list, your viewers will never see the bot, and you can report them in matches at the end of stream. Actually, I do. I'm pretty sure I do have Streamboo as a thing. Can you still see it? I thought it got deleted. Unless I never fixed it. Oh, wow. 14 messages were deleted by a moderator. Streamlabs. Oh, you know what? It's because I have Streamboo as one of the words. And you said the word. You said the word you weren't supposed to say. And it got flagged. That's really funny. That's actually really funny. I think the reason why it's not working is because, um, I guess I do live near a flower forest as well, so I could very well make the farm in the flower forest to get only oxygen, basically, which would be very, very good. Yes, it bopped me, but not the bot. It's because the bot has the dot at the end, and that's why. Because the dot isn't accounted for, which is most unfortunate. All right. So now we've got plenty. Plenty of these. So really, realistically, we want to use the oxide daisies as a highlight. Like 1 or 2 per thing. Wildflowers we want to use the most of. And of course, dandelions and azure bluettes we can go to town on. But everything else... or yeah. So now we can go through and we can do that. I don't remember that making a difference in shields. It does now for some reason. A little wildfire patches right here. Welcome in, Agnamamish. Hopefully I pronounced that right. On the YouTube side of things. But it's been a while since we had one of those bots. Replay thing or whatever you call it. Yeah. I just said hi to you. Why do you keep saying hi, brother? Welcome in, Agnam. What did you get up to today? Don't say hi, bro, again. There is a lot of stream delay on YouTube. Just as an FYI. So do not panic. That thing you're doing right now where you're panicking, stop it. It's not helping. So what's that? There actually won't be as many. I got a lot of these flowers. There's not going to be this many patches of them. Like, really, realistically, having these two right next to each other was not great. These little patches look so good, dude. I tell you what. I kind of do like having them centered on the whatever you call this stuff, the moss. I really like the way that looks. Gotta spread it out a little bit. Yeah. Nice little grass patch. Have it growing in the light spots, really. I think that's kind of the pattern that we need to set up here. So that the flowers grow in the light. Looking very, very nice. Oh, dude, I'm telling you, these little, like, these patches of friggin' flowers look so good, dude. It just feels realistic to have patches of flowers, you know? I mean, they're literally called wildflowers for a reason, you know? Very, very nice. Mm, very good. Very good indeed. I kind of want to have one right here. I feel like that would kind of make sense. Right on the edge of... No, we're not doing that. On the edge of the road. Looking snazzy. Very snazzy indeed. Definitely feel like it makes sense to have them more on the outsides than on the insides. Whoa. There's a singular lantern there. Alright. Genuinely, though, I'm happy with that for the orange wild, for the yellow wildflowers. All of that work, all of that gathering, just for that, dude. Heck yeah, brother. We'll go ahead and leave the yellow flowers together. And we can maybe put the white flowers together. I can't wait to actually create a new storage system that won't friggin' have this, alright? So now, the other... Actually, hold on, one thing I should probably do, because now I have no flowers in here, is, friggin' restock. Restock those. Boom, boom. Very good, very good. Is actually doing the two tall flowers, like pink. So lilacs, peonies, pink petals, ideally pink tulips, alliums, maybe a little bit of cactus flower action every once in a while. But I think, because I don't have a lot of the other ones, we'll just use these because I can get large quantities of these flowers. In fact, I'm not even going to take these ones out. We're going to just go upstairs and get a whole bunch of them. And in addition to that, if I have any, I have 6. You can use the flowering azaleas as well. Worry about those ones. Might have to go back to a Nerb's place to steal some of those, because I know he had a ton of them. Why am I going over there? Oh, obviously, we have the bushes. We have all the firefly bushes. This... Don't know why that was in there. Do I seriously not have pink petals? Right, that's probably good. We really... Now we've learned we don't need that many. We really don't. There's just a little will do. Why do I not have pink petals, man? The only problem... Okay, I will admit, the only problem with the too tall flowers is having flowers that are only slightly above... You know what I mean? Like, only slightly above the ground. Don't actually look that good with them. Like, to be fair. So I think I might just put these around. And not actually worry about those. Because I don't actually think it will look good. We can just put around these two together as a flower patch. We'll do the similar kind of vein. I don't like that. It's too tall. I didn't like that. Alright, if we're gonna do the pink color, then we're gonna need pink petals, pink tulips, alliums probably. Do all of those. Because it just didn't look good. I didn't like how tall it was. Roses might look good if we did. Because I'm thinking if I actually put the rose bushes within the bushes that we have already, that might look good. You know? Gentlemen, I forgot to start the recording for that entire placement. I'm pretty sure the recording that I had literally has me doing absolutely nothing on it because I didn't end up getting to placing all of those flowers until later. It's fine. It's fine. We could just start the flashback. We'll probably do like a pop in and out, like a before and after kind of picture. You know? Yeah, now I'm gonna need pink petals and alliums. Let me... There's a flower forest over yonder. Let me fly over to it. And see how many pink things I can pick up. I mean, there's a decent amount of pink petals here, you know? That's white. We want the pink ones. I think these would look good with alliums and pink petals, you know? I think it'll mesh really, really well. Hello, Piggy. I think Piggy might be stuck. We could technically do other colors as well, but I don't think that'll be necessary. I'm just remembering, B-Dubs has started putting leaves in the ground as like a building technique. I could do that. I just realized, like, I could totally do that. I don't, however, think it'll matter. I don't think I'm going to do the azalea bushes in the ground. Simply because... Oh, maybe I should. Because it's like, it's a very hidden detail, and like, what's the likelihood somebody's actually going to see a detail like that? Like, most people won't be walking through this forest. You know? Like, people really aren't going to actually see the forest itself. It's going to be unfortunate. It's going to be something you're going to see from afar, so you just want that pop of color. But you're not going to really be seeing these details, so I don't know how important, like, how valuable it would be to put that there. I don't know. And as mentioned, I would have to put a block underneath of each of them because I can't put one of those just on top. Like, well, either way, if I'm putting it in the ground, it wouldn't work. How did that get split? Oh, those guys are gonna start following me. We don't want that. Don't want that at all. Because I could, because of this flower forest that's here, I could absolutely just create a crap ton of flower farms. Maybe that should be a future mega build. There's actually a mega build I was thinking about putting in this area in general. And maybe this is actually the spot that I put it in. And the reason for the build is it holds all of the flowers. And so it's not a dye necessarily. It's not for dyes, because the herb already kind of has that going on. But it's actually for the flowers themselves to build it. Because I am building forests, and they need trees. Or they need flowers. They need beautification. Alright, I think that should be enough for the big flowers. Now I just need a bunch of the cherry blossom ones. Do I have cherry blossoms? The answer is no. I could also use those leaves. Actually, the answer is yes. It's just not in there. Honestly, I'm going to get literally 9 stacks of this stuff. And we're going to do it the long and slow way. Because I'm too lazy to set up a farm for this. Here, if I do... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Gentlemen. This is how you use the mods you have installed. It speeds up life. Alright? This is the... I don't want mods that, like, duplicate stuff, okay? I want mods that do that, you know? Like, yeah. Not 100% sold on the alliums. Just because of how they're growing on me, though. They are growing on me. If we use them more sparingly and use more tulips. We'll do like a little patch right here. You know, like something starting to grow right there. Do one along the side of the road here. That could be kind of cool. We do one that's like, kind of want to do almost smaller ones for these ones. Like they're, you know, kind of like trying to grow. In these yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's good for the pink. I don't really think there's any other flower comp because we only have the pink petals in that. Like that's really what I was going after. Is you have like the smaller flowers and the larger flowers. Again, we're gonna fill up this first. Okay. We just have pink petals up here. That's cool. That's cool. That makes it easy. One thing, as mentioned, that I think I want to do. Do I have any roses? No. Gentlemen, ironically, I think it would be faster to just grab the amount of bone meal that I want and do fast right click than to turn this on. But because I have it, we're gonna use this to grow rose bushes. And if I have any, which I think I do, yeah. Get some sweet berries as well. And we'll put these around the bushes to kind of make the bushes pop and make it look like, okay, yeah. Why am I not doing? Alright. Fast right click doesn't really do anything there. Alright. We'll grab a couple more sweet berries while we're waiting for the rest of the guys to filter in here. Okay, that's probably good on sweet berries. Grab a couple extra. Okay, there's a big stair in there. Waiting on that. My favorite song, by the way, Aria Math's playing right now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's Aria Math. Alright, that's fine. We can let the rest trickle. But with what I want to do is I want to put these right around the bushes again to make it look like roses and thorns, literally bushes. I know, guys. We're gonna use the bushes to make it look like they're bushes. Trust. But I think it'll look really cool if we had a little bit of red, and then maybe we'll have like their own separate ones. But like over here, what we could do is it's like maybe we break that instead. We place these. Around like that. Maybe not all of them. Like maybe the ones that already have kind of flowers near it, we don't really worry about. Do a little bit of that action. And I think we'll to like emphasize that it's a part of the bush. Only the ones that have a stub in them get this treatment. Yeah, well, let's be crazy. Well, we'll intermixed. Unfortunately, we have to kind of wait for the berries to grow up. Oh, look at that. Before, like, we can get, like, the full effect. That's okay. I think it's gonna be worth it. This will look... I think this will look pretty good. Clearly, I trust it enough that I'm doing it to almost all of them. I already like the way that looks. Like, that looks pretty good. I don't know about you. Like, that's just a pile of leaves. But this is a bush. No, that's a pile. See, this is a pile of leaves right here. It's not a bush. It's only the ones that have a log in it, you know? Otherwise, it's just a pile of leaves. Whoops. I mean to eat that. I think we're just gonna say that this one is a rose bush as well. Just so that way I can do that. Because this right here is our elevator. And that will help cover up that part is specifically not being used right now. Oh, gentlemen. This looks so good. I think that's pretty good for the roses. I think that's pretty much every bush has now been transformed. Not every bush. That one hasn't. That one needs to be, though. I really like the way this rose bushes look. They look really good. And I think, again, with the sweet berries growing up, will make it look all that better. And then, of course, because we have the bits that are just fallen leaves, it also looks good. Because there's variability. All right, I think that looks good. Taking a step back. This is just all of the greenery. We are running a flashback right now, so we do have that all on flashback. Good, good, good. That looks really good. I like that. That looks good. All right, that's good. That's good. I think the next step now that we have all of this like undergrowth and overgrowth, I think the next step to let's see. Rose bushes, we'll go ahead and put upstairs. We'll go ahead and put both of these upstairs because we don't have a lot of it. That way it forces me to come up here more. It's a very, very beautiful area. It is a shame I don't use it more often. I think the next step that I want to do is taking moss carpets and shroom lights. Doesn't necessarily have to be shroom lights, just a light. And actually lighting up the forest so it's not spawnable. That way we don't have to worry about anything. So we can turn this on. So obviously underneath all of the carpets we have lights. But now we can do this. This is going to be kind of the hard part. This is where we're going to use a lot of glow lichen as well to kind of help cover lights. Because we'll just kind of have to do that. But in some of these areas, we can easily get away with it. And honestly, it's already doing more than I thought it would. I'm being totally honest with you. I did not think that this would be as effective on the surrounding terrain as it is. Which is really quite good. Now, it's these spots that are really difficult. I did not bushify this, but that's actually a good spot to put one of those. And then we can also hide one. Kind of within a bush. Actually. Ow. And that way we can get rid of this one. The reason for that is because I don't really want green on my brown, you know? We don't want green on our brown. So whenever we get the green on brown spots, we'll come in later with glow lichen and firefly bushes. We can go ahead and put one of those in instead. Because I think that'll look much, much, much better. This is already going really well. Like we're pretty much lighting up the majority of this whole space with just these shroom lights, which is very, very good. And like if I can, I would like to put it around pre-existing greenery. I think that'll help mesh it. Like, this is a great example of where, like, okay, Firefly Blush, and some Glow Lichen, probably the way to go there. Now I gotta be careful. My thorn bushes, they're thorny. Can you believe it, gentlemen? Yeah, in cases like these, there's just like, there's literally nowhere for me to put a light. And that's okay. We'll go back through and put Glow Lichen. And this is why we're doing the lighting after we've already put all the greenery, is because some of the greenery we don't really want moved. That's okay. Because as mentioned, we can go back through and do something else. Like right here, we didn't really leave ourselves any space. And that's fine. That's fine. We'll just have to figure out another way to light it. And there's just certain areas that are just going to be harder to get a larger light in place. Just because... Yeah. Now, as you can also see, this road has not been litified. We have not swapped out the concrete yet. Mainly because that was the first road that I ever built. So I never got around to it. Put it there. And that is the unfortunate thing with path blocks. Where did my let's go? Alright, I think that for the most part is the entire forest as lit up as we can get it. Given what we have to work with. And like most of these are going to blend in and just kind of hide away. In fact, what I probably am going to do is go through and put carpets kind of surrounding the carpet that is placed, just to make it blend in a little bit more with the surroundings, like do that. And then maybe we put a couple near. That action. I think that could be good. Yeah. Just to make it look like it isn't just a singular carpet. It's just hanging out there. And now, like, yeah, we're at building. We know what the tactics that we use to cover up lights. You know, this isn't a surprise, but you know, it's still cool to see. You know, I think that's kind of the fun part. Am I gonna cover up some of the stuff that I already got there? Yeah, probably, but that's okay. outs of carpets. That's okay. It's perfectly fine. It is now time to grab firefly bushes. Why do I keep saying bushes? Firefly bushes. And glow lichen. I don't know where I keep that. Let's see. Have any more firefly bushes in here? No. Probably have it in here. Okay, we have glow lichen right there. No. Oh, I do have firefly bushes. There. Perfect. Perfect. Probably need a little bit more than that. Let's turn this off because it's kind of annoying me. It's kind of ugly. I don't think it matters what tool I use. Okay, that should be probably pretty good. Can't really use glubs for this. They won't work. All right, let's turn this back on because we need to finish lighting this place up, and then we can start putting in all the bushes and ferns, and all that loveliness. We're gonna dot these around, like, you know, regardless. It's not the greatest at lighting things up necessarily, but that's a great use case of getting a freaking glowberry in there. Don't want that many. Jeez, no. Let's see. No, lay out your arms. Sorry, the spirit of EG just kind of came over. What the heck? Sorry, Hugh, not EG. Wrong character. Man, I would love to voice act. And the problem is, I'm a hard sell, okay? And what that means, I'm not very good at selling myself at being good at things. Because I tend to be a little too humble with myself at sometimes. And that ends up being very, very harmful. Because I'm like, you know, I'm okay at these things. When really I need to be like, no, I'm good at it. Like, I'm actually, I think I would be a pretty good voice actor. I can do a slew of voices and whatnots for characters, you know? I can do those kinds of things. But I just don't sell myself in a way that would appear to be it. And of course, like, it never helps when you're more introverted and quiet because people really don't see it. They're like, you being, you know, not quiet, like, you know, we don't want a quiet, brooding character. I'm like, that's not who I want to play. So when it comes to, one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to doing, um, if I build, like, a story-based minigame is, whoops, did not mean to do that. Let's put that there. Um, is a little bit of voice acting for it. I think that would be really fun. I ran out of glow lichen. I forgot how bad glow lichen is at actually lighting things up on larger scales. Now, unfortunately, the usual tactic of fast right click won't really work on this guy. Which is most unfortunate. But I guess it could. Oh no, it works. Now I just gotta hope that, that's probably good. Yeah, that doesn't work. Just had to check. Now I just gotta hope that I don't accidentally shove glow lichen into my system. I think voice acting would be really fun. I have a friend who is designing his own video game. And man, I really want to voice act for it. I really do. But as I mentioned, I'm a very hard sell. This is the same friend that I do the D&D campaign with, right? Same guy. The problem is, of course, when I started this campaign, I had never played a role-playing game before, not long enough to really know what I can and can't do. So I definitely held back because I didn't want to step on his toes by accident, by doing too much. Which I realized is not what you need to do. In a role-playing game, you need to go over the board 110% every time. But I didn't know that. I didn't know I was even allowed to do half of the things that other characters have done, or other players have done with their characters. I didn't even know I would be allowed to do that. Which is very unfortunate, because of course now I've set myself up. And of course, when you're doing a fantasy, like, unfortunately, anytime you do a fantasy, and you're playing a fantasy character, there's a specific type of voice that comes to mind. Is this, like, deep British kind of voice. This is the typical fantasy actor kind of voice that you can give, you know, is the very, very typical character. You'd probably meet this guy on the side of the road. This is the voice I give to my character in this D&D campaign, right? It's not awfully exciting for a voice. It really, really isn't that exciting. It's not that impressive by any means. It's not cool. It's okay. You can do a British accent. Who can't these days? Like, it's not an uncommon thing to find. But, like, I can do so much more than that. I didn't know. And so, I have a few ideas for other characters for if I ever die in the campaign that we're currently playing. And if I ever die, you know, I got some ideas for backup characters. One of which is basically a guy that made a deal with a god, or more or less, not that he made a deal with a god, but he's a coward. Okay, however, whenever he cowers in fear, the god played a cruel joke on him and basically takes over and fights for him in his stead. And so he's known across the lands as the strongest swordsman that ever lived. You know, everybody knows him and everyone fears this guy because he's the greatest swordsman that ever lived. When in reality, this guy literally has no idea how to use a sword. And that's the funny part, you know? Alright, now this whole forest is lit up. Got firefly bushes in there as a little bit of extra. I think that's probably good. Obviously, there's not a ton of them, but I think there's enough of them littered around. And they're all littered around the glow lichens, so it almost looks more like the firefly bushes themselves are giving off the light rather than the glow lichen itself. And then, of course, we have the other light that is in there, which is very, very good. Unfortunately, this does mean I have no firefly bushes anymore, but that's fine. We will get to the leafing eventually. And so I was torn about what I wanted to do for the voice for this character, and one thought that came to mind was a Scottish accent. He's this kind of Scottish accent. He's just like, hey, how you doing? I am the greatest swordsman that ever lived. Do you really think you could come in here and fight me and actually believe that you could win? That's bollocks to me. I tell you what. Your head is somewhere where it shouldn't be if you think you could actually beat me in a sword fight. It's about time you probably put your sword down, because your sword has a better chance of beating me if it's on the ground than if it's in your hand. You know, and kind of doing that sort of a Scottish accent for this character, because I thought it would be funny. Another character I had was a monk, a warrior monk priest who used to serve the god of war. However, found a different path in God and decided to take like 60 years of hermitage to become this monk. However, he's absolutely ripped. And he's kind of the best picture what he looks like. Ripped Gandhi. Which, of course, if he's a ripped Gandhi, what do you think his voice is going to sound like? You know, it's just like, I serve the god of war. Yes. I am an excellent warrior. Yes, don't put a sword in my hand. It's going to be a very bad day for everyone else. I tell you what, it's going to be a very bad day. That's all I'm saying, is it's going to be a very bad day. We don't want that to happen, okay? We really don't want that to happen. And have that kind of like Indian accent character. I think that would be really fun. Now, I think personally, if I ever manage to get my foot in the door with voice acting, personally, I think a really like fun milestone to reach as a voice actor, like a really good spot to hit as a voice actor, like achievement. That's the word I'm looking for. A great achievement for a voice actor. Did this also? How does this one get powered? Okay, yes, it is this. Would be, because I'm white, playing a black character, like voicing a black character, would be really cool. Because, you know, you can kind of figure out a way to, like, change your voice and be a different person. And if you can figure out, like, the cadences, the mannerisms, the way of speaking, you can maybe do it. Now, I feel like that's not the best rendition. I've done better before. That was honestly a really bad rendition. Of course, the issue you get in with those kind of things is, of course, you want to avoid stereotypes, and that's why you'd work with a director and you do your research and really learn about this. Now, mind you, I'm coming at this with a mind of a linguist. When I do a lot of these accents and these dialects and all of this kind of stuff, I'm coming at it from the mind of a linguist. But that's just like humanoid characters. By the way, are you familiar with Gandhi glitch from the Civilization games? I am not aware of a Gandhi glitch from the Civilization games. I have Civ 6 because my sister plays it. I don't know if I've ever played as Gandhi before. Okay, that's probably good on the bushes. Yeah, that's plenty of bush. Oops. And so, like, you could do all those, but then you could also, like, playing a monster would be really freaking cool. Or, like, a villain. You know, something non-humanoid. Oh. Shears broke. Well, that's not good. Oh, I literally have shears in here. Hello there. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things. I watched a video on all the ways you can change your voice. And so if I ever, like, get into voice acting, I'd want to be like, okay, here's all the characteristics that I can change about my voice. What do you want to see as the director? And for this character, what do you think this character would sound like? What kind of voice qualities would that character have? And doing something like that. I think that could be really cool. Alright, that should be pretty good for the furnage. I reckon. Because in yours, you've got the Irish accent as well. You know, you can do like an Irish accent here and there. You know, throw that in there and make it very interesting. People always say it's a Scottish accent, but it's not. I don't know how to do a Welsh accent or like New Zealand, but those would be fun accents to do as well. Oh, I can't. It's too far away. It's too far away. What am I supposed to do? I can do a better Irish accent than that. And, like, I think one of the things I would do as well, personally, is probably, once I figure out what a character's voice is, record myself doing that voice so that I can remember what it sounds like. So in the first or second game, alright, I'm gonna take a little pause. So for the first or second game, about halfway through the tech tree, you can research democracy, which removes 1 from the aggression/pacifism slider for the AI. The problem for Gandhi is that his slider was already as low as it would go. So when you subtract 1, you would end up at the top of the scale because computers, TRDR, halfway through the tech tree, Gandhi would start nuking everything. That's kind of funny. Becomes the exact opposite of a pacifist. That's kind of funny. So I'm thinking... Oh, I replaced it. That's not what I wanted to do. Near bushes and edges, we can do too tall. Same thing we'll do with grass. Like if it's near a tree or something, we can make it too tall. Not always, but it's a good, like, kind of thing to do. Okay. I don't think I made enough of this stuff. And then every once in a while you throw in a tall one here and there. Same with the grass. It just makes it visually interesting. Throw a tall one up there, why not? And we don't need like, this is going to be way more spread out for how many bushes or trees that we have here. Yeah, well, that answers that question. I can't bone meal this. So I am going to have to place... I am going to have to place all of the grass manually. So let that sink in. We're going to have to go through and place all of our grass manually because we can't bone meal the dirt and grow grass on it. That's kind of fun. Gotta be careful around the moss. I really don't want... Oh, okay. Can't be doing that. Granted, getting bushes and stuff is really, really not that hard. To be perfectly honest. Like, okay. That don't change how annoying it is to accidentally cover up your own thing. Don't really want to go too far onto the grass over here because that part's just not done. And then I think the next step after all of the ferns and stuff a lot of talk is actually going to be all of the fallen leaves, as in like leaf litter. I am already out of ferns. That's kind of crazy. All right, we're gonna need a lot of ferns, but look at that. Look at how far this is freaking coming. Players loved it so much they did it intentionally in some of the later games. That's really funny. You get so passive that Gandhi's like, this is too passive. I need to start nuking everything. All right, well, you need a ton more ferns, which means I need a ton more shears to get them ferns. Yeah. Alright, well, it's just going to be this for a little bit, because I need a lot of ferns. Ferns just look so good, because they're so bushy. It's so nice. The amount of bush they got on them is very, very nice. But yeah, voice acting would be cool, because I'm thinking, if this friend of mine has me on as a voice actor, okay? Besides, he's like, yeah, I'll give you a chance. And I managed to actually make it into the game as a voice actor. The game does really well. And maybe, due to the circumstances of it being the first time game, maybe I get the chance to voice. Maybe I impress him so much that I can be a main character. So my voice would become recognizable from that character. And then it would be really fun to be able to get in other gigs. And maybe at that point it'd be worth paying for, you know, one of the websites. Like voices.com, mainly what I'm thinking of. Pay for that. I need pictures. Let me do like 4 shears. Leave 1 in there. We're going to use the rest of them. I need a lot of ferns. Based on how many ferns I went through the first thing, we're going to need a lot more. Bushes seem like they'll survive. We'll worry about bushes later. But for right now, it's ferns. Ferns are what we need. Okay, I think I'm starting to wind down. I gotta go to work tomorrow. I think I might live stream tomorrow night as well and do Elden Ring and continue flails only. Because I really do want to continue the flails only run. Because I was having a lot of fun with it. It's so bad, it's good. Like, the weapon is so bad. But the power, the dual wielding flails, kind of good. The crouching is kind of good. The crouching is kind of good. Like, the crouch attacks work really well. So I really want to build for crouch attacks and see how useful they would actually be. Oh, that's actually much easier. As long as I don't do something like that. How much durability does one of these things have? $283. So that's how many ferns I get per shear, right? Okay. I think that's gonna do it for the stream, because I don't want y'all to have to sit here and watch me break ferns over and over and over again, so I think I'm gonna save that for another time. Just make sure that we have that built. So, that's gonna do it. Thank you for joining. We're gonna log out. ER tree undergrowth to 8/7/26. Save replay. Let's see who is current. We can end the recording as well. Let's see who is live right now to raid. You think we can Steven is live. We wanted to raid him. But he's not playing Minecraft right now. None of the streamers I follow are playing Minecraft, so we're not going to raid anybody. That's going to do it. Thank you all for joining. I think I'm going to be back tomorrow to continue flails only. That'll be all.